Action Park
Media.
All right, welcome to Ramble On, the official podcast of the unofficial television show. We've been gone for a while. I'm Doug Ellin.
Ted Foxman.
And, while this world seemed to be frozen, because I get DMs, and I'm sure you do too, what's going on and this and that, it's like I'm living Entourage life with this show, behind the scenes of the show that doesn't currently exist at the moment, although it does exist, because we made a pilot. And people always ask,
it does exist.
What happens with a show? I've got people asking me what happens with the Thierry Henry soccer show. So again, we're still, as amazing as it is, we're still ahead of the Entourage pace of startup to actually filming something. So we're still ahead, but
that took you what, 2 years with HBO?
Over 2 years. Over 2 years from the moment that we sat down and first conceived of the idea to the moment we got on the set of a pilot till when it aired was close to 3 years.
And did you go through I'm sure you've discussed this on Victory, but did you go through a formal pitch process where you sat down, told them your idea, and they went, good, we're going to go with that?
Yeah, and
it still took 2 years from that point.
Yeah, and I have talked about that before, but we went into HBO. It was myself, Lev, Ari Emanuel, and my agent, Jeff Jacobs at the time, who had written the script as Jeremy Piven was playing Jeff Jacobs, because I'd never heard of Ari until that meeting. And when we pitched it, and they bought it in the room, and again, nothing to do with me, because Ari really took over the meeting, and they said, yeah, we'll buy it. I thought we had made it in Hollywood, and we walked out of there, Lev and I, and it was like that scene in Vanilla Sky where the whole world was empty and we ruled the universe. And it meant nothing. I mean, it meant I was getting $50,000 over 3 years to write a script that they would note until finally I think they just gave in, because, the truth is, and I say this about any show because it happens all the time, whether it's Mad Men that HBO passed on, or The Affair HBO passed on, many others, Seinfeld, which was almost canceled. You only need one person to fight that fight, and Chris Albrecht was the only person at HBO that wanted Entourage on the air. So they kept letting me write against all WGA rules. I must have done 400 drafts, and again, we've talked about this before, but the amount of times that I thought the show was dead, we're many, and you grind. That was a little different story than this, because this show, which we've talked about before, 97% of the people that see this pilot really, really like it. We've gotten a couple of people like, but for the most part, people really like it. And currently, where are we? Which is, it's so wild because there's a strike. So I am not really allowed to talk to people. So Ted has talked to people, and I don't want to mention whoever anybody is, but we have an offer. It's a lowball offer to go do this show. I'm not even sure we could do it for that, but we do have a lowball offer to go make something if the strike ever ends, by the way, because we can't make anything right now.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that?
I don't like it. I mean, look, I have said it from the beginning, and I said it's the reason why I said yes to getting involved in the beginning. I believe in this thing. It's great. It's got extremely relevant topics about vulnerability and second chapters and starting overs and the world changing around you and thinking one day you had everything figured out and the world's by the balls, to the next day going, I don't know which end of the stick to grab. And that is extremely relevant for people. And if I saw a show like that on TV, I would watch it. I would watch it from the first episode to the last episode. I probably wouldn't take a break in between.
Yeah.
And I would be waiting for the next one. So I believe in that. So I don't really want to get involved in people's lowball versions of it, because that, to me, that denigrates the value that we already have.
Yeah. It's so wildly frustrating, because when you have a script, which when I had the Entourage script, we all thought it was really good. But you don't have Piven. You don't have Dylan. You don't have Connolly yet. So you're just imagining how good it could be. We have all the guys, and everyone top to bottom on the pilot crushed it.
Yep.
They did great. And as I try to say to everybody, a pilot is, hopefully, if your show goes 5 years, a pilot is one tiny little chapter in a long story. But that being said, I guess some of the things that I want to express on this podcast, which, just so you know, so I'm going to go back. let me just get into podcasting for half a second, which I think, Ted, you alluded to it a minute ago. I think, like the show, purpose is a very important thing in life. It's having something that you wake up to and really feel good about. If it makes you money, obviously, that is, then you're really in good shape. And I know Flamingo Kid didn't invent this, but I remember one of my favorite movies that had a big influence on Entourage, but one of my favorite movies with Matt Dillon, he says, find the thing you love and find the thing you're good at. And if they happen to be the same thing, that life is great. If they're not, then, you're fighting the fights. And we've seen it in any fantasy world that you could see. There's been NBA players who don't love playing NBA basketball, and they'd rather go do something else. Brian Williams from the Bulls, if anyone remembers him, I know you do, who was tragically killed by his brother, but he had like $100 million contract. He just never loved basketball. So I actually love doing this. And the
podcasting or the writing or the creating?
No, I don't. I love you know me with the writing. I never loved the writing. I love being on the set. I love being with the right group of people, like we were on this pilot. Yeah. But the writing process has never been a joy for me. This is like, I just like it. And the best thing about that, which is where Victory started from the beginning, it was never supposed to make us money. And I never had any deal with Connolly about doing that. I just said, let's do it. See if we enjoy it. And if we do, great. And it was enjoyable. And now, it started building into something that could really turn into something that we could make money on. But, I don't think those guys I don't think they like it as much as I do. And that's fine, So I'm going to do whatever. Hollywood ways. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I don't know who's going to listen. The truth is, it really doesn't matter because, like I said, I come here and I feel like I'm doing a radio show, and it gives me a nice couple of hours of the week to vent whatever I'm venting.
Have you figured out who your Robin Quivers is, or
no? I don't even know. I may just fucking go alone and just talk. I don't know. And then this podcast, if the show ever does go, we'll come back in some way. The plan always was, for me, was that Charlie Sheen would have a podcast called Charlie Sheen's Ramble On, which he would have on the show as well. Yep. And if Charlie wanted me to be on the show or you to be on the show, great. And if he wanted to do it with Martin or anybody else, he could do that. So that was the plan. But, the frustration with this show right now is I just, people really like it. And we have this amazing trailer that I know. I also want to there's someone who keeps writing these nasty things about me online, which is really like annoying. And they say I should
just in general.
They talk about the show. I should give you your money back, and I suckered you into a thing. So I want to talk about the process of how.
I really told my mom to use an anonymous source, so I'm really sorry about that. But
and by the way, just for clarity's sake, I'm into this thing for $30,000, $20,000 in cash, plus obviously writing a script for free, which is fine, as well as directing for free. But I just want you to explain how this went down so everybody understands. This wasn't like, hey, Ted, I really want to come over to you and present you a project, and I really want to take your money and see what goes on. That's not how this show went down. So as you recall it, like, how did we get this thing going, and how did you decide to write, a big check?
Huh. It's all very foggy.
Is it foggy?
I mean, look, you and I, we probably spent 4 days a week together, either having breakfast, having lunch, whatever. And during that time, and I actually think it's pre-COVID maybe. Well, certainly we were doing that pre-COVID, but yeah. You brought me into the original Action Park to sit down with Kevin and see if there was anything that could be done. You thought that there was potential in the studio itself. And I don't know what else you may have had as a motivation, but that happened.
Sex.
And we it all goes back to that. So we had lunch, and then afterwards came over, and I don't remember if you were doing a Victory episode at that time, but you brought me into the office. I met with Kevin. I said, hey, I think you've got something interesting here. Afterwards, Kevin didn't follow up, and we didn't end up doing anything. But in witnessing what I saw that day, even just in the probably hour and a half or 2 hours I was there, you and I started talking, and you were like, this place is unbelievable. And I said, I agree. I said, I can't believe they're not doing some sort of show here. And you were like, no, I think there is a show here. And over the next, whatever it was, 6 months, a year, you and I just talked almost 3-4 times a week at, what could this be? How could that be? How do I get them to do this? How do I get them to do that? How can I make sure that we capitalize on the situation we've got? And I think you just started seeding the thoughts of, here's where I think I see this going.
Yeah.
And I had always wanted to be involved, as you know, in some form of picture television, whether it's feature or not. And when we started talking, I was like, well, look, from an entrepreneur standpoint, which is where I view things, what are we waiting for? Like, do we have to spend the time going through this? And I don't know whether you need me for that part of the process, but it's going to take years. I'd heard your stories about all the pitches you've made over the years and the places that it goes or doesn't go, and how that progresses. And I just said, well, why are we waiting? Why don't we just figure out a way to do this? Yeah. So.
And for me, this...
I don't remember a formal pitch, and certainly no PowerPoint was involved.
There really wasn't a pitch. And I was, as I recall starting, I was going to finance a show with Kevin Connolly and Kevin Dillon before we had Charlie. My thought was like, you know what? I got 2 Emmy-nominated actors. Let me go make a show. I don't really know what it is, but something in this setting. And I was going to put up a few $100,000, which, no offense, I'm glad I didn't. But at one point, you said, I really, really want to do this. And we did it. And we really did have a really great experience, which is so rare because even the Entourage pilot, which I'm very happy with how it came out. It was a torturous process. I mean, it was not enjoyable at all. It was a lot of people who didn't trust a lot of people. As you know, I was forced to hire like my boss who had to stand over and like oversee me and tell me. And then I had all the people at the studio who, were telling me how much I sucked all the time. So it was a rough process. And even when it was done, we didn't think we were getting picked up. So we had to wait another 3-4 months while it was just sitting there going, is this going to happen? And then finally they picked it up. So for this, one of the things that you hope you get out of an experience, which of course everybody wants to make money and nobody wants to lose money, but you want to have a life-affirming experience. And for the moment, the tragedy of this show is, besides the one jerk-off writer that we've talked about before who wanted to cause some problems on the show, we had such an incredible group of people that all got along, that all loved what we were doing, and are all thrilled with the final product. So, you're just battling, and I'll always say, Unforgiven took 10 years and won 11 Oscars, and All in the Family, which was one of the most successful sitcoms of all time, and Seinfeld, both were almost canceled, as was Cheers. So you keep fighting the fights and you keep going. And I still believe there is a world where we're going to see this. But, for me, we have this amazing trailer that everybody who sees it fucking freaks over. And I am like, I don't know what it'll do. By the way, I am not here to tell you that, we stick it online and all of a sudden it's got 400 million views and everybody calls us and goes, we'll give you whatever you want. But
yeah.
There's nothing worse than your work not being seen. And, I don't know if you know this story, which I always thought there was a good movie in this, and I'm blanking on her name, but she was the singer I saw on Nightline, and she never sold one record, and she died of cancer. And a DJ happened to hear her and loved her and put her on the radio past her death. And she became huge. And I'm frustrated that Scotty, I don't know if you can find this, or Scotty's even in the booth anymore. I think it was literally like Over the Rainbow or something from
Wizard of Oz?
From Wizard of Oz that she did, and then she had a whole album, Eva, maybe something. But anyway, it's a remarkable story, and there's many of artists that have left great works behind that were never appreciated till long after they were gone. So I don't want you to think that I think that's going to happen to you. Where
you mean I just need to die so this thing can kick off?
I don't know what the answer is, because I want everyone to understand. Everybody goes, agents, can you get agents involved? We have had the head of the Creative Artists Agency, loves this show, wants to make it, can't seem to get it done, even though we've had meetings with lots of people who like it. We've had the head of William Morris, love this show and try to get it going. I mean, these are the Ari Emanuels of today. Obviously, Ari, who just, bought WWE and has another $6 billion, doesn't really deal with this type of stuff anymore. But the guys at the top of those agencies, which are the biggest in the world that deal with this type of stuff, they love this show. They have invested their time and energy to try to get this thing going. And I don't even know what the answer is anymore. But the weird thing is we've now gone these backdoor routes because the strike is on right now. So I can't actually talk to anybody who's involved with the with the studios that actually has an affiliation and a deal with the WGA. But who I have been able to talk to is money people behind the scenes. And those meetings have been straight out of freaking Entourage. I mean,
those were the meetings I was not involved in.
Yeah. So, I mean, nothing is going as a normal show would go. Dave Perkle, who is my genius cinematographer, and Gary Goldman, who is my awesome producer, and Jeremy Alter, they've been doing, I haven't done anything.
Yeah.
I did my job to the best of my ability. And now they have a product, and they've put me in touch with people and got me on calls with people. Some, really interesting and successful people, but it all feels like some weird Entourage episode because some of the shit that goes on these calls it's just bizarre. And you see how...
What kind of things are bizarre that have gone on the calls? I don't think I've heard that.
I mean, one guy doesn't show up on camera ever. He just is like never on camera. And for a while, I was like, does this guy actually exist? Because I didn't know what was happening. And his email address is like 7777333 at ccc.dd. So I'm like, who is this and what happened? So finally they said, would you want to meet him live? I'm not even sure I wanted to meet him live, but I wanted to meet him live because I didn't understand what happened. I wanted to make sure I wasn't having some Manti Te'o situation where this guy is not even real. But I'm on these calls with real people that I know their businesses and I know how much money they have. But they don't really understand what they're doing on the calls because the reality is nobody is financing $50 million worth of television without knowing where it's airing. It's just not happening. So while I've been willing to entertain all of these conversations almost out of fun, I don't really know what the point to them was because I said from the get-go, this was never going to happen. Because even if you had whatever you think the greatest show is of all time, Sopranos barely got on the air. You know what I mean? So even if you handed me The Sopranos tomorrow and you said, hey, you want to put $50 million into this and make 10 episodes, anyone with a brain is going to go, well, who's going to air it?
Right.
Because I really don't want to,
Well, I guess I didn't have a brain.
Why?
Well, I financed it and didn't know who was
No,
there.
Totally different scenario. And again, obviously it doesn't look great now, but I and you, I think when we started, obviously it was like, okay, this is a risk. I think when we were finished with the pilot, neither of us imagined any universe where this wasn't going to sell. And the reactions that we got from people. So, I don't think you're a moron. And again, I believe, like I said, I've had plenty of people that I know have financed movies that are awful with awful experiences and awful outcomes. This was an incredible experience and, and a chance to get yourself into the business and decide whether you like it, to meet a lot of people that actually are really working in this business. And, it's also, it's a great calling card to show what you produced and what you did. Again, obviously we want to get the money back, but that was never the goal. The goal was to really have a television show on the air, go spend our next 5 years making a show with people that we wanted to make it with. So,
but going along with that, I would be getting my money back at that point.
Of course, but I'm saying,
no, I mean, look, we
putting $50 million in is a big difference.
Going into it, we didn't know what the outcome was going to be. Yeah. And I say we still don't know what the outcome is going to be. I don't look at it like it's over, and I do look at it like it's a great finished product that somebody can have a vision for and decide to show it to an audience. I don't really think it takes a lot of courage to do what we have presented people with. I don't think somebody goes, "Oh my God, how am I going to sell some of the biggest, and most beloved actors and character actors on the planet?" I
think we made something really good at the right price, and then the world goes. And that's why I said to you, to me, if we just want to make sure we get our money back, I believe we could turn this into a 90-minute independent film. I believe it could be a backdoor pilot. I've already written, first 3 episodes of this, which with some alterations could be a movie. And, you see the independent movies that sell with, that are absolutely unwatchable with horrible casts and stuff. So we could do something good if it's simply about getting the money back. What we wanted to do again, and why I talk about purpose and how, when you get to, a slightly advanced age, everything is not about making money. And again, that's completely separate from you getting your money back. It's believe me, obviously we want to get your money back. But I think, we could turn this into a 90-minute film if we went and got, smart and went and did it the right way and included all of our actors in some back-end participation of it. And I think we could do that, and I think we could do it successful. And then if it works, where people love it, then it's like, okay, this is a pilot, this could be a TV show. So that's one of my thoughts. But I just want to get this trailer out there because I don't think it hurts us in any way, shape, or form. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, me personally, I have no reason to not show the trailer. We've been advised that the trailer was made with people's known music product, and that all the sites and places we would put that on have watch mechanisms that take that kind of stuff down and say it's violating copyright stuff. So we have not acquired the rights now, regardless of the fact that we would be putting this up for free and not monetizing it anyway. I think people are just concerned that there's copyright violations and that it just won't go very far.
Yeah, well, I think we have to change the music, which, it's never going to be, like that. It's never going to be Ramble On, no matter what great musicians. And I have, I have a friend who's an awesome composer and, and he can do rock versions of stuff, but it'll never be the stuff that's in that trailer like that.
Yeah, of course.
And as you saw, the reaction that the 2 live shows had in Phoenix to that trailer was like, it's what you dream of having. If you put that in a theater and you get a reaction like that, you have a hit movie. Yeah. So that's again part of the frustrations of it. So what do you think? I mean, what's your thought? What's the next move? What do you?
I mean, part of the dilemma right now is I think so much of the world we're trying to sell into is in total turmoil. Forgetting the strikes that are happening, all of those companies are struggling to figure out what they're going to be when they grow up.
Yeah.
I think, a year plus ago, Netflix had a very big reality when they started losing subscribers for the first time in their history, and their stock got totally demolished for it. And now all of the other groups that are providing these platforms are finding ways of either merging with others or in discussions to merge with others, or they're simply just going to disappear. And I don't think people knew at the beginning of it that it was going to be so complicated. But, Netflix opened the door for the streaming, element, and then everybody started flooding to it like any normal thing, and then bubbles burst, right?
It was so wild because I was saying this 5 years ago when they were releasing The Irishman, and they were like, we don't care if it makes $1. We're not going to even put it in a theater for more than a week. We're just going to stick this $150 million movie on Netflix. And I'm like, maybe I'm just too stupid to understand the economics of this, but I don't get how this can keep going. And it hasn't. And, also, one of the things about getting into this business or any business, timing is a lot. And, I will always say, people go, oh, you're lucky. Of course I was lucky. Anyone who gets a show on the air is lucky. Anyone who gets a hit show is lucky. And that doesn't mean it's not good. But there are a lot of good people who don't get that break and don't get lucky in every walk of life, And looking at... I'm just thinking about, he's obviously made a lot of money, but like even watching the football game last night, Nick Chubb, it's just like that, his career
things
could be over.
Things change on a dime for sure.
And things change. So
listen, one of the guys, you weren't involved in this discussion, but one of the guys that we pitched to absolutely loved the pilot, loved the trailer, loved the behind the scenes footage, and loved where it was heading, or where we told him it was heading.
He died? What happened?
No, that was, I think we had the call two and a half weeks ago.
Yeah.
And last week he was replaced. By the way, we're not talking about somebody who's just a champion within a group. We're not talking about like, hey, I showed my friend's cousin who works over at Showtime. That is not what happened. This was the head of content. Gone. So that's why I say there's a lot at play right now that I think we're kind of just swirling around it, and we got to just wait for the right time,
By the way, so my career started, one of the first features I wrote, I have a huge up-and-coming producer whose name I will not mention at the time. We're talking 30 years ago. And he reads this script. I don't know him. He's like, I love this. This is amazing. We're making this, okay? And I hate to even bring this up, but he ended up in a drunk driving accident. Someone died, and he went to jail. And that was it. And, horrible for my script and obviously the person that died. but I mean, this is...
And kind of bad for the guy who's actually in jail.
Of course. And, and even when he came out, though, he wanted to make that movie after 3 to 5, whatever it was.
But he had less credibility on the street.
Less credibility. And, and he's made some strong... By the way, he's one of the guys, and this is the stuff you deal with in this town. You remember this. He called me up after he saw this. Again, the amount of calls that we got on weekends, which does not happen in this business, from people like, this is amazing. So he, who's doing whatever he's doing now, was like, this is amazing. He said, do not talk to anyone until I talk to my people. Okay? He called me again Sunday. I was like, there's no one to talk to. It's Sunday. He's like, I am buying this. We are making this. On my life.
What are we talking about?
I haven't heard from him since. That was 5 months ago. Now I've heard from other people.
You're talking about Ramble On, or you're talking about a script? The script that you originally wrote.
I'm talking this. This is 6 months ago. When I called you and said this guy said they're buying this. Don't talk to anybody. He's buying it. His company is financed by a billionaire. He thinks it's fucking genius. And then I never heard from him again. And I want everyone to understand this isn't someone fucking with me. This is how this business works. Who knows what happened? He might have gone into work the next day and his producer or his money guy said, I'm not financing a fucking TV show right now, or who knows? But he never had the decency
to even call you back and say, hey, I just want to let you know this was in progress, but.
Yeah, and this is the frustrations you deal with. So when people talk about Entourage, was it realistic? All of that stuff that I put in that show was really realistic, and I'm living it all over again, which is, it's wild. And, I guess someone could have said, maybe you should have learned, because as I've talked about on this podcast before, when you get into the pilot business with a studio, you start a real long-term relationship, and they invest money, whether it's $10,000 or $400,000. And as soon as they write that first check, there's egos on the line. There's people who have to answer to people if it doesn't come out good, and they have a reason to want it to succeed. And again, I'm not making excuses for this show, but when you're walking in and going, here, take it or leave it, it's a different situation. And again, I still think, our meetings at Netflix, I had a 2-hour meeting at Netflix. I don't understand. We have a huge producer who's a good friend of ours who loves the show and wanted to co-finance it. And we met with everybody at Netflix. When a pitch meeting goes well, that was one of the better pitch meetings I've ever had. And it's like you say, who knows, the strike was coming. Their budgets were getting cut. I don't have an answer, but it is frustrating. That's all I can tell you. And it's really frustrating to think I can't get anyone to see it, because I just want, an audience to take a look.
Well, here's the only observation that I have as a result that I can say firmly I think exists. Where this is going to go, I don't know. But what I've observed so far is we're in this weird period where people have more of an agenda about who's involved or what that looks like versus what the product or what the art is expressing. So if I look at a situation and I say, is male vulnerability a big deal right now? It certainly hasn't been in the past. Male vulnerability was not a concept in the 1940s or 1960s. People put their chin up, went to work, lived a life. Even if they were unhappy with it, they never complained, or if they did, nobody cared. Today, I think a lot of people are realizing the burdens that come with being whoever they may be, whether you're a minority, whether you're a woman, whether you're a man dealing with all sorts of issues. The truth is that we're in a place right now where the art isn't going to be judged on its own. It's going to be, well, what else comes with it? Because that's what I'm really trying to create. And I think a lot of things might get lost in the shuffle. I don't know that ours is going to get lost in the shuffle, but when you're telling a great story, but it doesn't have the face that you're looking to see, that sort of notion of checking the boxes, and if it checks a box, it's good, and I don't even judge it for what its sort of value is. To me, that's a weird place to be in, and I think we're in that vortex right now, and I don't know whether it's going to come out, and I don't know what we're going to look like when it's done.
Yeah, it's definitely, it obviously makes something harder if you don't fall into what's seemingly the moment, but still, the world loves a comeback, and Charlie Sheen's story, and I've said this before in this podcast, the guy that you see in those videos with Diane Sawyer and doing the winning stuff, I don't know that person.
I don't either.
And he has been one of the great, generous, hardworking humans that I've ever worked with in my 30 years in this business.
Yeah, incredibly gracious.
And to see him through his father's eyes and to get to spend time with a legend like Martin Sheen and seeing how good he is. And then, a lot of people, whatever it's worth. A lot of people hate my guts for whatever fucking reason, but a lot of people understand that I see a lot of things before they happen, and I always have. And pickleball was one of them, and you see what's going on with that right now, which is crazy. But the Ferrari movie's coming out, which we wrote the movie in the show years and years ago. But I was writing this whole idea for Charlie, where he rekindles with Chuck Lorre and makes 2.5 Men.
Yeah.
And he had not spoken to Chuck in a decade. And then Chuck called him out of nowhere and asked him to do his HBO show, which Charlie did. And he's not the star of it, but he's got a nice part that'll be coming out very soon. And I think the world is ready for the movie star, TV star,
to come back.
Charlie Sheen, to come back and to see him vulnerable. And I don't, when we say that, and I'm not saying that you said it like this, but I don't want anyone to think that this show's somehow soft.
No.
Johnny Drama was the vulnerability of Entourage, and he's got Kevin Dillon on this show as the heart and soul as well. But all of the guys are dealing with stuff that is, trying to get them, pretty much what our life is, I mean, it is.
Yeah, I think it's what anybody's life is.
Yeah. So I guess we keep grinding away, and
well, the good news is that you have been, and I give you that credit. You have been very sort of visionary in a lot of different things that have kind of come to life. And so, if that means anything, then this show's going to happen.
Could be after I'm dead, though, which is fine. By
Listen,
the way. As long as you take care of my children,
I will make sure that they get their cut and.
And it really is what. By the way, what I said, and
it would bum me out if that happens, because I'm not gonna lie. Like the notion of people getting their due when they're gone, that's to me one of the saddest things.
Oh yeah, I mean, by the way, I have no interest. I mean,
I don't like seeing people underappreciated while they're alive.
Yeah, and again, I don't want anyone to think I feel like I've been underappreciated. Obviously, like I've been very fortunate, but right now I am at that point where I want to do something productive and I want to do something that I enjoy doing. And we'll see where that shakes out, but it is a really strange time in Hollywood. This strike is still going, and I don't know. There doesn't seem to be much end in sight, and I'm seeing, the big people are starting to wobble, whether it's Bill Maher or Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
And I know from behind the scenes, there's, showrunners that are starting to wobble, and it's, it's a very tough situation because the union has, maybe every union is like this. I don't know, but you have union where there's people worth $100 million and unions where people don't have $5 in the bank, and they're fighting for the same things. But if the people with the real big money don't stay on the same page, ultimately it crashes and burns. So
well, I mean, I remember when this started, like what, May 1st, I think was the date.
God, I don't know.
When that happened, there was talk that people were like, we think this is going to last till Labor Day. Like it's the whole summer.
Yeah.
And at the time I was like, God, that seems like forever. Well, Labor Day has come and gone.
Yeah. Well, by the way, when they said that, and I told everybody my thoughts on it, anyone who says it's going to be quick, I'm not saying it wasn't going to be. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
It's wishful thinking.
It's like a war. And once it starts,
right,
egos get involved just like anything else, and you don't know where it's going to go.
Well, and there's also leverage that has to be created, because when you're trying to, the reason why a strike is necessary is two people can't have a meeting of the minds and agree on something. Yeah. So one person who doesn't agree is going to see things one way, and the other person is going to see it the other way. And to get what they want, it's about manipulation and leverage. That's like any negotiation.
That's why these waivers, though, kill me. And I don't know if they go on in other strikes, but I don't understand this at all.
You mean that you can still go do things?
There's a couple of people who can still go do things. And again, I'm with the strike. I'm supporting. It doesn't even change my life in any way because I wasn't working before and I wasn't working after. Okay. But I'm not going to try to break the strike. Obviously, if we could get this going and someone gave us a waiver, yes, I would accept it. But I don't like it. And I think that, you have this situation, a friend of mine, Jeff Pearlman, who did the podcast, he's got Winning Time that he wrote and that they're canceling. But, he can't even have the people out there promoting it.
They're canceling it.
They're canceling it. So, and people really like it, and he can't, and I guess I'm not even supposed to talk about it, although it's canceled, so maybe it doesn't matter, and I don't care. They can, what are they going to do, fine me? Because that's the other thing.
Send you a postcard.
Yeah, that's the other thing we haven't talked about, but the WGA one is like, they're coming after, I guess I don't know, or the producers, or I don't even know, to pay me more money, which I don't want any more money. So because I'm in the WGA, they're claiming we spent more money than we did or something. I don't even know.
Yeah, I think some of the other people involved are handling that. I'm not.
But anyway, it's not a great situation when your own union, because I went into this, and what I was going to say before is, and there's nobody to say this to, so you're shouting at the sky, and I'm not trying to say, oh, this is how desperate I am. But my feeling on this show, and I've said it to Charlie, because I still talk to Charlie every day, which it's killing me. I don't have anything fucking positive to tell him about this. But I said I will do this first season for free. Not one. I mean, obviously, there's minimums that you have to accept or whatever from the deal. I would do this first season 100% for free. I would write every episode. I would direct every episode, and I would get the show done with the promise that if it works, I get a deal. But we haven't even had that opportunity, which is weird, because I thought someone would say, because it's an expensive show. It's not cheap. We shot it on film. We shot it just like we shot Entourage, which is really big and really cinematic. And, it's not like, oh, give us $100,000 an episode, which I think we'd be on the air if that was possible, but it isn't. So,
if it was $100,000 an episode, I would have just done it myself.
Well, you should do it anyway. So, but anyway, we should talk about again, and I know we discussed it 6 months ago, we should talk about the idea of turning this into an independent film, I think, and have it as a backdoor, because everything could change when the strike ends. People could need content, or maybe they won't. Someone, like you said, could come in and all of a sudden they're running the studio. One of the people who loves this, maybe the guy who fucking never called me back, maybe he gets a good job instead of...
How long did he go to jail for?
Like a few years. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was like 90, 91. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, so that was a long time ago.
Long time ago.
Did that script ever go anywhere?
That script sold to, David Schwimmer. Friends happened, and he got a deal with Miramax.
Yeah.
Which,
nice.
Horrifyingly
place.
enough. Well, it's funny because looking back, I remember that.
Lots of good art came out of that.
But Schwimmer, his first thing he did, which was like, I believe it was my first script sale. He got that in the deal, that they bought that script at Miramax. So that was one of the movies he was potentially going to make. But The Pallbearer came out and didn't do great. Yeah. And it didn't, again.
And then everything changed.
That changed. And
so that script just got buried somewhere. It was purchased, but it was buried.
That script got buried. But one of the Hollywood moments I remember extremely well was being at Mr. Chow's when I was just, like, Schwimmer was one of my...
We should revive that and do it.
I love that script, by the way. But Schwimmer was one of my best friends, and Friends had hit, and all of a sudden he's this giant star. And Darren Aronofsky was a good friend of mine from AFI,
yep.
and his movie, I don't know if it was Pie or the next
one.
No, I don't think it was Black Swan yet. But anyway, I went to Mr. Chow's with Harvey Weinstein, and anyone wants to go, why didn't you fucking kill him? Why didn't you? Because I didn't know he was a fucking rapist. I knew he was an asshole. I knew he had a big, obnoxious personality, but I didn't know all this stuff, because people say that to me. You put him on the show. No, I made fun of him on the show, and he threatened to kill me for it. But I had dinner, which was one of those moments in Hollywood where you really feel like, oh my God, I missed the boat, because Harvey Weinstein was kissing Schwimmer and Darren Aronofsky's ass at Mr. Chow's, and I was some fucking idiot that didn't even exist at this table. I honestly, I remember sitting there really feeling like these are one of those moments. Wow, two of my friends just made it. I'm never going to make it. And why am I even at this table? Because it's so humiliating how they were fawning over them. This is pre-Pallbearer. So, it's the ups and downs that you go through in this business. And right now it does, I do have that feeling that I'm kind of an outsider looking in, which is weird. But I know I have a great show. I'm not delusional about it. I'm not stupid, and I'm not delusional. And I know I have a great show, and I know it'll only get better. So, we just gotta, find the person who believes.
I think it's going to come down to just being patient and seeing how it all unfolds. I really don't think this thing is going to, mothball. I think it's got something, and maybe, your friend can help us get it into the prison system as entertainment, and people can spend their commissary money on it.
He will literally never hear my voice again. And I got a message like 2 days ago from him, hey, he says hello. I'm like, that's great. I mean, And I mean, just for curiosity, I would like to hear. And by the way, that was the second person, because we know Gary Goldman set us up with someone else who called the first day and said, this is fucking amazing. And another guy because there's a lot of these, by the way, there's a lot of these billionaires now that are financing film and entertainment companies. So you remember that in the beginning? He was another one who said, don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And then he vanished as well. Yeah. So you start to feel like people are fucking with you.
Feels like we're in the magic industry and people are just disappearing.
Yeah, but it is what Hollywood is, and it is the people, that are willing to say anything before they really have any clue what the fuck they're talking about, and they throw a lot of shit at the wall, and some of it sticks and some of it doesn't. So,
Yeah, I have a friend who's been in this business for a long time, in different ways, and his favorite phrase is, Holly wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, it is always a tough grind. And again, I'm not trying to whine about this. I still feel like we had a great experience on the show, and
that we did that.
And I just, like we were talking about a little bit earlier, but the show started with Kevin and Kevin. Charlie wasn't even in it. I had written this scene for Charlie Sheen that he was going to do on the Victory podcast as an audio scene.
Yeah.
And then it hit me like, why not somehow work this into this? So it all came together so nicely, and the casting came together so nicely, and
I remember
and the production did. So that's what we got to hang our hats on at this point. And
look, for me, by the way, regardless of how any of it turns out, certainly that week of shooting, it was probably one of the most rewarding weeks of my life. It was great to be involved. It was a great group of people. The content was good. Everybody believed in it. Lining up that many people and getting them to all sort of march to the same tune, that is really difficult in life.
Yeah.
And so, the fact that happened, regardless of what the financial outcome is, that piece of it will always be something that I look back on fondly, regardless of all the other experiences.
Yeah. And also, you haven't experienced the horror of putting your money into something and being treated like trash by everybody. And, Tyler, our boy who's made 15 movies, can tell you about being asked to leave sets, not being listened to at all. And, that was what was great about this. Everybody had a voice, everybody contributed, and, to a man, I don't think anyone who was there at the end of the week was not thrilled that they were there.
Yeah, no, I like I said, that's why I continue to have faith and believe in it, because I think we have something that's really great.
And that's also why I want to say, again, for Gary Goldman, Jeremy Alter, Dave Perkle, these guys are fucking grinding away, doing jobs that they've never done and would never be asked to do. And they are continuing to fight the fights and go through every angle, which sometimes that's what it takes, because it really is. It's just one person that's got to say, okay, let's go do this. So hopefully Charlie will be on Chuck's show. Hopefully, people go, oh my God, what is Charlie Sheen doing right now? Which they should be saying. I don't get why they're not, but they're not.
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there. And this podcast, we'll come back if there's something to say. What else is there to say? You got anything else you want to?
At the moment, no. I mean, it sounds like maybe we should discuss what the plan is on a shorter feature and how to get that done. And
yeah, I think
we can look into all of it. Me personally, I think we've got the right stuff, but certainly at some point you do say, okay, can I keep waiting for the world to come to me versus, it's time for me to just finish a product and put it out there.
And I will say, this is not, switching this to a feature is not some weird, desperate move. I think you remember this, and we never knew the budget was going to be where it was, but at the beginning I said, we need to do 90 minutes of material, like 3 episodes, so we have them. And I don't mean you, but everybody else talked me out of that. They said it was going to be too expensive. We wouldn't be able to get the crew to work for the rates that we had. But all you have to do is look around the world and see the pieces of trash movies that are put on. And we have something, we know we've got 25 minutes of a great opening to a first act of a movie right now. And you've read the second and third script, which I believe we would be close to 90 minutes. And it would not be that much to change it into a feature / 90-minute pilot. And then I have zero doubt we'll sell it. Get your money back, whether we made a ton of money or not. I have no idea whether we ended up getting the show going because of that. I have no idea, but my belief is we would. So we'll talk about that offline. And if we get anywhere with that, we'll come back and we'll do this again. If not, I'm going to do the other podcast, which I don't know what it's going to be. I'll take calls. I'll try to bring guests on, but it will be the fact that, what can I tell you? I like talking. And if you don't like listening to me, that's perfectly okay. You don't have to, because no one's paying me either way. So I will come to the Action Park Media Studios. As far as Victory, I honestly, because I'm getting DMs about, I have absolutely no idea what's happening with it. I don't want to be funny anymore with I'm an employee. But the reality is it's Kevin's company. When they call me, I show up. When they don't, I don't. And if those guys want to do it.
Is there something happening on Victory?
I don't know. Kevin was doing a revamp and then I don't know. We haven't done one in 2 weeks. So I have absolutely no idea. But if they call me, I'll show up, because it's a lot easier than speaking. So I guess that's it.
Plus, you're not banned from speaking in this current climate, right?
I don't even know.
You're banned from writing.
I'm definitely banned from writing, and I don't know what the ban is on speaking now, but nobody's going to stop me from speaking. Not you.
You will not silence my voice.
You will not silence me. These fucking trolls, these creepy fucking trolls. There's like,
I'll put a note out to all my family members to stop DMing.
By the way, there's a couple of people like Kevin Conley needs to fire Doug Ellin from Victory. Okay, whoever you are. Suck my big fucking dick, you fucking loser. Okay?
Well, we're heading into the X-rated portion of this conversation.
It's so bizarre to me. I don't think people understand how much effort and time I've put into this and how much I've tried to keep this thing together and get it going and get our live shows going. And I honestly, I think I've made in the last 18 months, I've made $3,800 doing it. So I got Charlie to come do our Phoenix show, and I obviously put together this entire pilot, which Ted, is on the hook for the money, but I put everybody together to get themselves a really good chance. And what actors always want is great film. And those guys have it. If they want to go act again, they have an amazing bunch of film that could show what they can still do and what they're capable of. So I don't know anybody a fucking thing. Okay. So except respect, which is we all have to do to everybody. And fortunately, for the most part, that's occurred during this show. And I don't mean this podcast, but I mean during the Ramble On show. So maybe we'll be back.